Good morning and welcome to Ball Talk.
Good morning to all.
I'm Daniel Boyd-Myers and you've also got Joshua Boyd-Myers on the microphone with us this morning. Good morning to all and thank you again for tuning in. So let's start with...
Jump straight into it.
Yeah, why not? There's no better place to start. I think we should start with... So I guess for us, we're finding our feet. This is probably our third... Well, this is our third show. Not probably. This is our third show.
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
So we're finding a few new segments and just sort of coming up with ideas and sort of spitballing as far as how we want the show to run and I guess a few segments that we want to run with. So the Brains Trust, that is myself and yourself, Joshua, have come up with a new program called The Good, The Bad and The Ugly. So we're going to kick that off. We'll probably run this for the next, for as long as we're on air, for as long as someone's willing to give us a big mic. And we're going to go with the good, the bad, the ugly. Let's kick off with yours for this week.
Well, we've got the good, bad, the ugly this week. Obviously, it's the first new segment to us.
It is indeed.
I've got, for my good this week, we've got the Ashes. We've got the cricket. We've got Steve Smith. Steve Smith, 215 runs in the first innings at Lords. He's the second Aussie player to ever do it in a Test match behind Bradman. Bradman was the only other Aussie to do it, and to score 200 in a Test is just massive. So that's got to be my good for the week.
No worries. You're bad.
My bad. We're going straight to me. All right.
Yeah, we'll just go through your good, bad, and ugly, and then we might have a bit of a discussion around that.
All right, no worries. Well, we've got my bad is it comes down to one of my teams that I follow, the Newcastle Knights. We're just terrible at the moment. After leading the comp for the first 5 rounds, I mean, undefeated for the first, I think it was the five or six games, to slump to last on the ladder. It's painful to watch.
It really is. So I actually, funnily enough, I had the Knights jotted down as well. Going Knights have now won one from their last 10.
Yeah, one from the last 10.
Which is just deplorable. Like, you've got to question what's going on at Newcastle. They're one of the nurseries as far as rugby league's concerned up in that area. It's a real shame to see them struggling the way that they are at the moment. Having started the season so well, you thought Bennett who were the questions being asked. Sayonara, goodbye. But it's really just looking like they're struggling.
Just on Newcastle, I mean, attacking wise, I think we've got the 4th highest points. Like when it comes to that, just defensively, our efforts have just been very, very poor, not only over the last 10 rounds over the last 9 rounds that we've lost, but, I mean, the fact that we started the year off so well and, like, defensively, like when I was watching the first couple of games, we were dominating them in every single way. We were attacking well and we were defending well. And it just seems after that first loss that they had, they just lost all their ability to defend.
Yeah, well, I know. I guess the mentality around, you only have to look at the Dragons. Defence wins games. I know that obviously they've had a bit of a form slump recently, but the reason that they were so high on the table was because of their defence.
Yeah, the same goes for Brisbane as well. I mean, there was an effort a couple of weeks ago against Melbourne, and I think they defended their line probably about for 10, 11 sets, just drop out after drop out. Melbourne kept coming to them, and just defensively, and it shows why that defence does win games, and defence puts you on the top of the ladder.
It does indeed. And you're ugly for this week.
My ugly is Parramatta. Parramatta and Chrissy Sandown, the whole saga there.
Well, what's going on at Parramatta? Phil, I haven't really kept my hands on Parramatta. It's pretty much every week the Parramatta's that's for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, so you've got Parramatta at the moment. They don't want Chris Sandown next year. They've basically said, nah, you can go. There's a side over in England, I can't remember who it is, that want him this year right now.
Right.
Parramatta have just come out and said, nah, we're not going to do it to you. We're not going to release you. Even though we don't want you next year, like Sandown wants to secure his future.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he can go there now and then it releases a bit of space on the salary cap for Parramatta, which means they could bring some other players in. And the fact that it was the same thing that happened to them the other week or a couple of weeks ago when they wanted Michael Gordon from the Sharks. And like the Sharks denied Parramatta, and the fact that they were dirty over that, and now that they're doing the same thing to Chris Sandow, even though he hasn't been the best player for him, but he's done a lot for him.
No. It comes down to player management at the end of the day. If you wanted to treat your players that way, it's a poor look on the club. And it just goes to show, I guess, the way that the Parramatta board are handling things at the moment.
Yeah.
My good, bad, the ugly for this week.
What do we got this week?
Well, it was hard to go past Nathan Friend's freakish pass from last week, but I've overlooked that and gone with Cameron Smith's 300th game last night. I think it just proves what a champion he is. They could have lost the game and he'd still be a champion as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think there's any chance of losing that game. But yeah.
He's now going on to 300 games. He's every chance of taking down Darren Lockyer's record. Let's just say he plays the next 2 or 3 years and they don't make the finals. He'll still, even if he just plays 20 games out of the next few years, he's easily going to be able to surpass Lockyer's games record.
Yeah.
He's a champion of the game. He's represented Australia, won numerous series there. Captain of the Queensland team, who's won 9 series now out of the last 10. I think he's a real stalwart as far as the game's concerned. And I have no hesitation in saying I think he should obviously be an immortal. Maybe not the next immortal, but surely maybe 0010 or maybe 0011. But potentially, obviously, going forward, he's a champion. I think he's really revolutionised. He's been a revolution as far as the hooking position. He's every chance of taking over Nathan Hindmarsh's most tackles for a player. For a bloke who was dubbed as having an accountant's body when he first came into the league by Matt Guy from the Storm there. It's a remarkable feat, and I think it can't be taken lightly. He's changed the way the hookers play, and he's the benchmark as far as hookers are concerned.
Yeah, just on that with Cam Smith, he's got a couple of years left in, and obviously he sees a future in coaching. It's a bit far out from me here, but the fact that Australia doesn't have a coach at the moment, I mean, could you put him as a player coach?
I'd be hesitant to do that because then there comes bias. I think and as much as you'd say there wouldn't be, there would be bias there, and he's got a friendship with those blokes. It's different if you're coaching your club because you bleed for that club. It's your club. You think you know what's best. But I think for your country, I think you need to have an independent coach. Who they're looking at, I have no idea.
No,
I'm not sad to see Sheens go.
No, that's for sure. I think Tuvi's been mentioned, but I mean he's still contracted at Manly for the moment.
Wouldn't mind to, in all honesty. He hasn't done a bad job, and I think Manly would be fools to let him go. But if so, then I think
slot straight in.
I think Tuvs could easily walk into the Australian coaching role. The bad would be the Sharks still not re-signing Paul Gallen. I just think for a bloke that's done so much for the club, it's disappointing that this is still dragging on. We're at round, I think, 19 or 20.
Yeah.
It's just dragging on.
Well, it's been dragging on, and I actually had this written down as well as a backup as well, that Gallen, with his contract talks, is still dragging on. I mean, the fact that he announced, I think it was before game 1 of Origin, he basically said it was a done deal.
Yeah.
And there's still no pen to paper.
No, exactly right. I think the real concern for the Sharks at the moment is his representative football.
Yeah.
If you look back over the last 2 or 3 years, I think he might have only played anywhere from
16. I think it's about 16 games over the last 2 seasons.
Which for a bloke for a bloke like Gow demanding the payback that he actually is, I think that's not fair. I think obviously they want him to cut down on his footy and dedicate his time to the club, which is fair enough. I think as a supporter, I'm a Sharks fan myself. As a supporter, I think that's fine. But if you at least maybe even say, look, you have to play X amount of games. So let's say 18 games.
Yeah, you can say that. But at the end of the day, you can't foresee injuries. And I know it's been like that for Gallen for the past few years, where he has had injuries that has held him out. And it always seems like he always puts his best in when he wants to play for New South Wales, and he'll sacrifice everything like that. But I think I read somewhere this year that there was about 4 or 5 games before he actually pulled out from his injury with his buttocks. He was having needles just to play for the Sharks for the 5 or 6 games beforehand. The fact that nobody has heard this, or the media hasn't said anything about it. I think the Sharks have really hit it, that they don't want people to see that side, that he's put his body on the line for 5 games this year, or 5 or 6 games where he's been playing with needles.
Yeah, exactly right. So hopefully that sorts itself out over the next week or so. Then there's the ugly. I was going to go with Smith and McKinnon Saga, but it seems a little bit of a obvious one.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd go with a little bit of a funnier one and go with the ugly. Have you seen Bernard Tomic's mug
Oh,
shot?
Jesus.
My goodness, I've seen better faces on drop pies. Oh, jeez. He's not. Apparently, or for those that aren't aware or aren't up to date with it, he's been arrested in Miami for resisting arrest and also for some loud music. So, what sort of music do you think he'd be listening to? I think probably Taylor Swift comes to mind.
I'd be going Barbie Girl.
Barbie, yeah. He does look like a bit of an Aqua fan. I could see him easily saying, "I'm a Barbie." Yeah. He loves that.
But seriously, how about the no shirt? Like, seriously, mate, get a shirt on when you're getting a mug shot. Like,
who does he think he is? He's got a rig like you. But I wish if only. But yeah, look, that's probably a bit of a funnier take on the ugly at the moment. But in all seriousness, so he's got to pull his head in.
no, it's just becoming ridiculous. Him, just the way that he's acting. I mean, he's not even in Australia when he's doing this. He's over in a foreign country where he's playing up, and apparently he was told to turn the music down a couple of times, and he come out and claimed that he was asleep. Like, mate, turn it off then if you're asleep. What's the go with that? Like,
how can you sleep when you're listening to the best of Backstreet Boys? I don't understand that. You've got to be up and dancing. Well, that's our good, the bad, the uglies for this week. Hopefully it's a good segment. We can find a bit more fun in it. Continue on with that going forward. We're now going to throw to a song. And hopefully this is a bit of a track for the hard style.
ooh, yeah.
Oh, hang on.
That. Oh, here we go.
We could be in a bit of trouble here.
Let's waste time chasing cars around our heads. I need your grace to remind me to find my own. If I lay here, if I just lay here, would you lie with me and just forget the world? Forget what we're told before we get too old. Show me a garden that's bursting into life. All that I am, all that I ever was, is here in your perfect eyes. They're all I can see. I don't know where, confused about how as well. Just know that these things will never change for us at all. If I lay here, if I just lay here, would you lie with me and just forget the world?
And good morning, and we're back. Sorry for that bit of a music trouble.
Still trying to get the controls figured out, are you, mate?
Yeah, first day on the job. Now we're going to kick off this week with going back into the sports preview. Oh, sorry, actually, we might as well kick off with last night's results. So we had in the NRL Melbourne beating Penrith 52-10, and we had Parramatta going down 28-4 to the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs.
Yeah, both convincing wins for both sides. I mean, they were both versing sides that are a bit lower on the table. I mean, they're still in the mix, but just out of form, both of them at the moment, whether it's through injury or through contract talks like Sandow. I mean,
I think the wet weather sort of helped keep Parramatta in the game for a little while, like the slippery track underfoot. There seemed to be a lot of drop ball early
yeah, I
on.
think it was 6-4 at half time, so the fact that they held in for that long was a big plus for them, I think, personally.
Yeah, so and then obviously the Dogs really got on top and dominated later in the game.
Yeah, it's just showing who the forces are at the end of the season. I mean, you got the Dogs who have dominated Parramatta, and as I was speaking to one of my mates last night, Tomo, I was telling him that the Dogs versus Eels, Parramatta usually steps up for them, and they did in the first half. But after the first half, they went to buggery.
Yeah, what a shame. And then we've got Melbourne obviously towed up Penrith. I think it was 20 or 24 odd go at half time.
Yeah, 26 at half time.
Penrith just really looked out of sorts. So it looked like Melbourne were really on though, and everything that they touched turned to gold.
Yeah, I think Cooper Cronk just coming back, and it showed the week before in the Origin games. He's come back and he's on fire. Obviously, he come out and said he wanted to get the job done for Smith and his 300, and I mean, by far, he got it done all right. I think he got 2 tries, I think it might have been, and he just absolutely everything he touched, like you said, turned to gold and just turned it up.
Yeah, well, they really lit it up, and credit to the Melbourne side. Obviously, they've been a little bit. I guess they've struggled through the Origin period as they traditionally do. However, that's really a real explanation point, and it stems them going well into the back end of the season.
Yeah, it sits them in at 4th spot. So the top 4 is where you want to be when it comes to this end of the season. So obviously they want the home final.
Yeah, well, obviously there's a few games to be played this weekend as well, which we'll cover off in a few minutes. But we've now got the Essendon versus North as well. Last night in the AFL, North Melbourne getting home 93 to Essendon 68.
Yeah.
I thought the scoreline probably flattered Essendon a little bit more so than anyone. I know the Kangas haven't been playing all that well lately, but if you look at Essendon's form line, I thought they were going to be towed up a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I think at half time they were actually in the lead.
Yeah, exactly right. So credit to Essendon for obviously staying with North, but I think overall though, I think Goldstein was probably the standout player for me for North there. You also had I think it was I've lost the name now on the tip of my tongue, but I think their midfield really dominated as well, but Goldstein was the standout for mine. We're now looking to, I guess, the crystal ball and looking forward to the weekend sport. Let's look into, I think, Geelong versus the Bulldogs today and the AFL. So we're just going to cover off the AFL first. Geelong versus the Bulldogs, Suns versus GWS, Geelong versus West Coast, Swans versus Hawks, and Dockers versus Carlton. Any of those take your fancy?
It was Collingwood versus West Coast, not Geelong.
Collingwood, it was indeed. It was indeed.
Yeah, you had Geelong in the first one against the Dogs, mate. So,
yes, I did.
Yeah, so it's Collingwood versus West Coast.
Oh, the old handwriting's gone to hell. But yes, so we've got Collingwood versus West Coast. So which of those games?
There's a couple of big ones here. I mean, you got the Suns versus the Giants. I mean, they're both not travelling the best, but I mean, the Suns last week, I think they went into the last quarter leading by about 20 and then just got absolutely blown away, and I think lost by 30 in the end with a quarter to go. So that's 50-odd points they lost in the last quarter, which is just massive. I don't know. I didn't watch the game. I don't know if Ablett had gone off or something like that, but something must have happened because the fact that he's such a big factor in their side, for something to get turned around that quickly, it was just ridiculous. So you got them versus GWS, which should be a fairly decent game.
Yeah, it should. Obviously, GWS, I think it might be. I think it's Tom Scully's 100th game this week.
Yeah, 100th.
Which is well done to him, and obviously for all the Giants fans out there, I think they'd be hoping that they can really live for this rivalry. I guess the two newer teams in the AFL franchise and really take it to one another. It'd be interesting to see how they actually go. I don't know who to tip. The Suns are good at home.
Yeah.
They've had a good record, even in their small history, by playing at home. But you just like to see the Giants sort of get up for the Sydney and also just for other reasons.
Yeah,
as well.
just to basically just stamp a bit of authority into it and just show them that they're not a cellar dweller anymore. I mean, they're starting to get players like you said, Tom Scully, who's a fairly decent player, and he's playing his 100th game. So you want them to be beating these sort of sides where that they can start to bring and draw some bigger players in, like the Swans have over the years. I mean, being AFL a fair not a Sydney sort of sport. I mean, the fact that the Swans have had such good flags over the past few years, I mean, you'd have to think that the GWS are aspiring to that.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully onwards and upwards for the Giants, and hopefully they get home with a win there today. I guess the bigger match as well for this weekend on the Saturday would be the Swans versus the Hawks.
Go the Swannies.
So the grand final rematch, which just to touch on last week, I think I might have said the Dockers and Hawks, which was probably the year before.
Yeah.
So just apologies for all the people out there just giving it to me after
keeping tabs.
Little bit of a brain fart. But we've got now the Swans versus the Hawks tonight, which we're actually going to go out and watch.
Yeah, we'll be out there, and hopefully this weather holds out. And
yeah, hopefully the rain can
no
hold
more
up.
rain.
Yeah, and we can watch a bit of Buddy Magic.
Oh.
Although I think the Hawks last week really gave it to the Dockers.
Yeah, they definitely turned it on.
Which is ominous for the Swans. But the Swans not barely got home, but unconvincingly got home against Brisbane Lions last week.
Yeah, and I think I was saying to a few people that the fact that the Hawks had come out and walloped whoever they were up against, and the Swans sort of underdid themselves, it could be a vital factor in tonight's game that they're coming in a bit underdone.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely right. So there's a theory, I guess, behind saving yourselves for the bigger matches, which a lot of teams do tend to do. But I think I would have liked a better form line for the Swans going in to the Premiership. I guess the Premiership favourites, really, the Hawks.
Yeah.
I know Fremantle are still, I think, top of the table at the moment, but the Hawks really are the standouts at the moment in the league. And this is a big game. This is going to be a big test for Sydney if they want to be taken seriously this year and actually look like a team that could go and obviously beat or upset this Hawks team and stop them from taking 3 in a row. Then Sydney's really got to stand up and have a real good go tonight.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, and it's showed over the years where they have won the flags that they can stand up against the big sides. Obviously, with Buddy now, he's just been so consistent. It's obviously a big factor in the Swan side. Yeah.
Well, I guess Tippett and Buddy have really got to fight tonight for the Swans to be a chance. And I think the midfield's got to dominate. You'd be looking at blokes like Hanbury and also Luke Parker's to really get their hands on the ball and control the midfield and obviously just dominate from there. But this Hawks team, obviously, they're no mugs. They know what they're doing.
They're looking strong.
They know how to win the games.
Yep.
And obviously, they're going to be up for it. And again, it's the same token that we're using with Sydney. At the end of the day, they want to win this game. They want to prove that they're the real deal. They're not just going through the motions again. They're still hungry. They still want this. So obviously, they're looking forward to a big night tonight, and we'll be out there cheering on the Swarks.
Swarks.
Go the Swarks. But then we've also got the Sunday games, which is Melbourne versus the Lions, Power versus Adelaide, St Kilda versus Richmond. No real interest in those, although I'm very interested in the Power and Adelaide game. Obviously, a few weeks after the Phil Walsh death, it should be a big game. Obviously, a big crowd, very emotional, and it's going to be a supercharged atmosphere, I think, out there just with the emotion that the players will be going through. I think obviously the game itself could be a little bit of a fizzer.
Yeah, I think it might be a blowout like it was last week with Adelaide. I think it was. I mean, Port's at the top of the ladder for a reason. So
yeah, so it could be an interesting. Hopefully, obviously, Adelaide stand up and really represent, I guess, what their club and their culture's about. But you'd forgive them for not.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, they did come back last week, but you got to think that they're obviously still feeling the effects of it, and it showed last week. And I mean, it's going to take a while for them to get past that.
Absolutely. And then we've got the St Kilda versus Richmond. St Kilda, I think that game, I think Nick Riewoldt, whose sister passed away, Maddie Riewoldt, through cancer. I think that a lot of the players are wearing boots off the back of that.
Okay.
So they're selling the boots online. So I guess for any listeners, not only here but also podcasters as well, if you are interested, jump online and have a look at those as well. We're going to quickly throw to a song just before we kick off with the NRL forecast for the week. Let's hope that obviously this works a little bit better than last time. Thank you, and we'll be right back. And that was Sleepwalking from Bring Me the Horizon, one of my favourite UK bands. A bit of Ollie Sykes there for
Didn't know what that
listeners.
one was, actually. It sounded a bit like... who are they? I've lost my thought now. I had it on my head a second ago.
They sound good. But yeah, a bit of Bring Me the Horizon for those listeners out there. We're now going to move into the NRL preview for this weekend. So there's some cracking games, obviously, on paper. There's obviously some... hopefully there's going to be some closer... I guess probably later in the weekend into the good games.
Yeah.
I guess today's games earlier on aren't exactly all that exciting. Although the Raiders... Sorry, let's cover off the games first and foremost. Raiders versus Cronulla. Canberra Raiders versus Cronulla Sharks. Newcastle Knights versus the Gold Coast Titans. I'll be working on that for next week.
Got to get the toilet sound.
We've got to get some sound effects going. So then we've also got St George versus Souths a little bit later. So these are the Saturday games. We've got Brisbane versus West Tigers, Roosters versus the Warriors on the Sunday, and then we've also got Manly versus North Queensland. Let's go through the Raiders versus Cronulla. I think that's 9th versus 8th from the top, or 8th versus 9th.
Yeah, I think it's around that, yeah.
Really, it's the two teams that really need to win. This could be a vital 2 points, not only right now, but for the back end of the season.
Yeah.
If these two teams actually want to make the top 8, I think these 2 points could separate them.
Yeah, it was like we discussed last week, the backlog of the bottom 8 basically.
Yeah.
We've from 4th or from 5th down to about 12th, I think it was. They're all within 2 to 4 points. So it's a very vital game, not only for the Raiders to try and stamp their authority and show that they can obviously win important games, but for the Sharks to have any chance to make the 8, they need to put in a big performance again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're going to see a lot more of these, like I guess the bottom 8 logjam matches going up against one another over the next few weeks, which should obviously really stem well into who actually makes the top 8 and who's obviously just the pretenders, separating the brackets, the pretenders from the contenders, as we like to say. But which way are you going on this one?
It's a tough one because I mean the Raiders have got plenty of points in them to score. I mean, it showed last week where Blake Austin come out, scored 3 tries within 15 minutes, and they just sort of dominated. But then you've got the Sharks who, like last week, they put on a fairly good defensive effort and they can score points as well.
Absolutely. So it should be interesting. Any tip there? Just flip a coin?
Down the line, yeah, but I'd be going the Raiders.
Going the Raiders. Too easy. We'll now move on to probably the worst game of the round.
Oh, I was going to say game of the round, but...
arguable, I guess. Newcastle versus the Titans. 2 teams that are really down on form. A win is really just a consolation, 2 points in the grand scheme of things. But I know with you supporting Newcastle, you'd probably be leaning that way.
Yeah,
but
and it's not exactly the biggest game going around, but I mean Newcastle obviously want the 2 points to get off the bottom of the ladder, and sort of they don't want that wooden spoon. And Titans are in the same sort of position. It's basically a battle for the spoon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Titans have... I like the Titans in this one. I just think they've got more to give. I think Greg Bird's back this week.
Yeah, they got a few players back. Birdie's back, so that helps them out.
I think Elgie's also a chance of running on.
Late inclusion.
Which is he's a really good young halfback. Yeah. I like a lot what I see when I'm watching Elgie. He really dominated. I think there was a game earlier in the season against the Warriors where he took the line on. There's not much of him.
No, he's only a little fella.
Yeah, but he takes the line on. He's willing to put his body on the line. He reminds me of like even a Luke Keary at the moment.
Or Scott Juro, maybe?
No, certainly not Scotty Juro. No, there'll be no mention of Scotty Juro ever again on this show, I assure you, listeners. Yeah, no, it's not. Jeez, that's strange. So we've got, I think with Bird back, Miles there, Ryan James as well. They've got enough power in the middle to be able to dominate Newcastle. I just really hope Newcastle show up.
Well, obviously I have to go Newcastle. I mean, support them through and through the thick, and I mean, I'm expecting a big win from Newcastle at home. I think if they don't want to perform against one of these lower sides at home for Newcastle, basically, I think if they can't win this, they pretty much just have to throw the rest of the season away.
Yeah, well, it stinks of potentially a rebuild. Obviously, they've got to look to the future. Gidley is really just. I know he's
Glad it's his last year.
I know he's a club stalwart, and I know obviously the history with the Gidley name through the Newcastle area, and obviously the Newcastle team. But he's just got to go.
He's done his services, and
you've got to get let's bleed through the younger generation here. Your halves with Roberts. Roberts just doesn't look like a first grader at the moment.
And I think you'll see him being pushed on next year, obviously, with Hodgkinson coming in.
Yeah.
So Hodgkinson and Mullen, hopefully, it's a big step forward for him, because Hodgkinson, as seen with New South Wales last year, he's not the most exciting player, but he can steer a team around, and he's got to come in and stamp his authority straight away, I think.
Yeah, well, exactly right. And Hodgkinson did play well last night. Controlled the ball, was good with his touches, and was good enough to be able to steer the Dogs to a good victory last night, which obviously will hopefully hold him. Is Mullen playing? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Mullen is in.
So Mullen's back, obviously.
He was back last week with Roberts was there as well, so they were both back last week, and I watched them, and it was like they literally had never played together before. They were both just so out of form, and it resonates from that down through the whole team, and it's hard to watch.
I do like your hooker though with Tyler Randall. I think he's a good young prospect. He offers a little bit of aggression out in the middle as well in defence, but he's also quick on his feet.
Yeah,
really good with the ball, and he's agile, which you need around the ruck there at the moment. I think the Sims boys need to start lifting as well. You signed Tariq on some big money as well. Corbin,
I think Corbin's been the standout for Newcastle this year.
Corbin's been doing his job week in, week out.
Him and Snowden, and I know Snowden's been obviously since he's come to us, he hasn't been the best player going around, but I think he's actually stepped up a lot this year. I think those two there can and will make a good combination for the front row for years to come.
And I've seen them, I think, during the week, or I think maybe last week, Jeremy Smith getting another year.
Oh, I didn't see that. So
I don't understand how you can let Jeremy Smith sign on when you've got a young bloke like Patrick Vai, and you've also got Sam Atarora, Joseph Tapine, who's also a good young player as well. You keeping a bloke out of first grade experience by keeping Jeremy Smith on the field. I know he's a quality player, but I think his best days behind him.
But then that's the thing. I think you can say it for a fair few of the blokes in the side at the moment. I mean, you don't want to talk about a player clean-up, but obviously it will happen. And, I mean, obviously you've got Kurt Gidley going next year. Bo Scott's gone. David Farlongo, he's gone as well. So, I mean, there's three positions there. You've got Roberts, who's out as well. So, I mean, there's 3 or 4 positions there that will and get filled by these young blokes. But, I mean, at the end of this... At the bad end of the season for Newcastle, I mean, surely they should be starting these other blokes.
Yeah, I guess the only reason that they might not do that is because you don't want to start them off with losses. You want to be able to build their confidence going forward and really give them a bit of an education around what they're doing and how to obviously win the games. We also then will go through to the next game, which would be the St George versus Souths. We've got St George, who have been on the back of a few losses this week. Over the last few weeks. And we've got South, who have obviously now got their origin players back, and they looked dangerous last week as well. What are your thoughts on this one?
I don't know. I can't... The Rabbitohs were a bit... I mean, you say they looked dangerous, but they didn't really perform anything out like spectacular last week. And the Dragons are just obviously in that form slump with all their injuries and everything that's going on with them. But, I mean, I think the Dragons will upset the Souths this week.
You really do?
Yeah.
at the SCG, the hallowed turf out at the SCG there. You think St George upset of the round?
Yeah, I think Dugan back and I think Frizzell's back as well.
Right.
So obviously they're starting to get their big names back. I'm not sure if Thompson's, but yeah, Joel Thompson is named to be back. So I mean, that's three big players there for Australia that come in, and I think Souths are just lacking something like compared to how they were last year. Whether it be Sam Burgess or I don't know.
Well, you look at Tim Grant as well. Tim Grant's named at starting front row. You don't get much out of Tim Grant. I think he's a very lacklustre player.
Yeah, I agree.
He's far away from his best form. The bench as well, I think, is the thing that South really thrived on last year. Their bench was really firing. Was probably just as dominant as their starting pack. I guess you look at the names on the bench at the moment, and that's sort of not the case at the moment. It'll be interesting to see if they can obviously get over the line. I still think South have enough quality on the park with GI coming back out of Origin. I still think Walker's probably one of the better centres in the game. And with Reynolds and I think Reynolds as well back from injury is finding his feet a lot more. They were good last week, and I still think they're going to be able to outscore the Dragons, regardless of the red wall the Dragons throw at them.
The big loss for mine is Isaac Luke.
Yeah.
I mean, just he has that go forward for Souths. I mean, and going to a game last night, which was the Dogs game. You watch what's his name, Leacher. And he gets in that second half. He just got the Dogs going forward so much that it put Parramatta on the back foot. And I think that's exactly what Isaac Luke does for his side against any other opposition side.
Yeah. Well, when you say that like that, I'm almost tempted to go with you. You may have just slayed me, but you're right. I think Isaac. I did miss the fact that Isaac Luke was out. Cameron McInnes is a good young player, but.
He doesn't have that go forward.
Earlier on in the season, there was, I think, there's 3 or 4 games at the time that when McInnes was on the field, South never scored a point.
Yeah.
That's obviously changed. I think it was the 4th game they played for them, and the time he was on the field, they scored a try. But I guess a little bit could be said around that, around his middle management, or I guess sorry, the middle third of the park management. But we'll wait and see how that goes.
It all just comes down to confidence for him. Like you said, he is a young kid, and it's a big role in a big club. So, I mean, the fact that he's got big shoes to fill next year, like you'd think he'd be, he's obviously going to be starting next year with Luke gone. I mean, I know that they want to rely on him, but they're going to have to give him a big confidence boost, and they need to really get him going forward.
Yeah, well, I think his combination with Reynolds and Keary can only improve as well. So hopefully that's the case. We now move on to the Sunday games with Brisbane versus West Tigers, Roosters versus the Warriors. Brisbane versus West Tigers, I think I was having a look at this one. The line betting on this, I'd still almost be taking Brisbane on that.
I'd be going a shellacking for the Broncos here.
The line was, I think, 16.5 head start for West Tigers. I don't... Historically, I think the Tigers do match up well against Brisbane. I think it's one of those bogey teams similar to, I guess, Brisbane and Canberra.
Yeah.
Sharks and Canberra. Sharks always seem to find a way to lose against Canberra.
Yeah.
I know a few years back when Brisbane versus West, West did have a good record against them. On recent form, you'd be very surprised if Tigers could beat them. But then again, the Tigers have that sort of roster where they can just turn it on one day.
Well, that's the thing. If they're any glimmer of hope, you have Luke Brooks and Moses. They'd have to be working well with Tedesco. I mean, Tedesco is their main thing.
I don't know is Farah back from me. I don't know if he's actually named to play.
I don't know if he was named to play yet.
Hopefully, Woods comes back and obviously continues on with his Origin form. He needs to really lift that forward pack. He's got a young forward pack behind him, obviously. But he's got to take ownership.
And that's the thing. He's young himself, but he's taken over that senior position role in the team with Farah. So if Farah's not there, he really has to step it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we've got the Roosters versus the Warriors, which I think is going to be a cracking game of football.
It will be close to the game of the round. The only thing that's better than it is the Eagles and the Cowboys, which we'll touch on. But both of these games will be just great, I think.
Absolutely. I think the Warriors in really red hot form. The only concern I think for the Warriors was Sean Johnson had a bit of an ankle injury at training. They said that he's fine to play. Mannering picked up an injury as well during the week, which again I think he's been cleared to play.
Yeah.
I know that they're missing. I don't know if Manu is flying over, the big winger. We've also then got Conrad Harrell, who's currently on the sidelines, and Hoffman as well. So the only concern I think for me would be that the Warriors may be missing two or three of their starting lineup, which they would have there hopefully come September. But it's hard to argue that the Warriors aren't going to go close to winning this one.
That's the thing. I mean, last week I tipped the Warriors to get walloped because of that bye round, and Sean Johnson obviously stepped it up again, and he's just been his form's just scintillating. Like the amount of stuff that he can do is just freakish.
And obviously, there's been a distraction yesterday. I think Sean Kenny-Dow's partner had pressed
An AVO,
an
yeah.
AVO. So there's a bit of
Ex-partner, yeah.
a bit of a distraction that isn't necessary for the Roosters. I think they're a professional outfit. They'll get on with it, but just hopefully it should be turning into it. Hopefully it's a cracking game. I don't know. Is that the one on TV? You'd hope it would be.
You would want to think so.
You wouldn't hope that the Brisbane Tigers game is the one that they're playing on Sunday afternoon. But well, I guess time will tell. I haven't checked the TV guys, but I'd love to see the Warriors and Roosters game. I think they're two very great attacking teams, with the Sean Johnson factor there. His form has been undeniably great at the moment, so we'll wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Ferguson as well, for the Roosters, is starting to find a bit of form.
Yeah, been in very good form, which is good for him and hopefully good for the club.
Yeah, and then you've got RTS at the back there, who has been, again, you talk about Sean Johnson's form, you could say the same thing for Roger Tuivasa-Sheck.
Oh, next year with those two together, it's just going to be ridiculous. Just having Johnson running the lines that he does with Sheck just on the outside of him or inside of him, it's just going to be so good for the Warriors.
I'd be tipping Sheck to have a really good game. I think whilst one eye might be on the future with playing against his future club, he looks like the sort of bloke that really want to make a good impression and make sure that he shows his current teammates he's all about the Roosters.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think he'd be a very humble kid, and he's very professional in everything he does. And it showed last year when you had Minicello still there and like just coming through, just like he was just biding his time. He's a very professional player from what I can see.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we move on to Manly versus the Cowboys, which you tipped as the game of the round.
Yeah,
I think they're both at even money as far as betting concerned. Which way do you see this one going?
Oh, it's a cracker of a game, but I mean, you got the Cowboys sitting a bit higher up on the ladder compared to Eagles, and I mean they're even money when it comes to the bet. And you got Eagles at home, so you'd be thinking Brett Stewart's obviously he loves playing at home. He always gets a meat pie. But in saying that, the Cowboys away form this year has been decent.
Much better than what it's been in previous years. I think they've broken the Sydney hoodoo, as they like to call it up there, which is a credit to them. But I think the Cowboys, regardless of Manly's form and how good they've been of late, I think they've been beating teams that they should have been beating anyway. The Sharks don't really throw much at them, and I don't know off the top of my head who they beat last week, or was it Cronulla? But for me, I think the Cowboys they should dominate them through the middle of the park, and then with your blokes like Matt Scott, James Tarmo, you've also got Tamalolo, and who's the second rower that everyone seems to have?
Ethan Lowe.
Those blokes should really just dominate the Manly pack with Willie Mason and Burgess and all the rest of those boys there. I can't see Manly really be. The only thing that it plays into is the Brookie factor.
Well, that's the thing. I was just about to say the thing that sways me the way of the Eagles. It will be a Monday night. It's obviously going to be fairly dewy out that way, and it's from previous years whenever they have a night game, it's usually fairly boggy, and the Eagles just seem to work with that. So I'm going the Eagles on this one.
Going the Eagles,
yeah.
Righto. All right. Well, we're going to throw to a quick song now. And we'll be right back after the break. Thank you very much for listening.
last night when you died, my firefly. What could I have said to raise you from the dead? Oh, could I be the sky on the 4th of July? Well, you do enough talk, my little hawk. Why do you cry? Tell me, what did you learn from the Tillamook burn or the 4th of July? We're all gonna die. Sitting at the bed with a halo at your head, was it all a disguise like junior high? Where everything was fiction, future and prediction. Now, where am I, my fading supply? Did you get enough love, my little dove? Why do you cry? And I'm sorry I left, but it was for the best, though it never felt right. My little Versailles. The hospital asked, should the body be gassed before I say goodbye, my star in the sky? Such a funny thought to wrap you up in cloth. Do you find it alright, my dragonfly? Shall we look at the moon, my little loon? Why do you cry? Make the most of your life while it is rife, while it is light. Well, you do enough talk, my little hawk. Why do you cry? Tell me, what did you learn from the Tillamook burn or the 4th of July? We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die.
And we're back live with Ball Talk here with Joshua and Daniel Boyd Myers. We're going to quickly go through the Ashes and then we're going to fire off on a new segment as well. As we said earlier in the show, we're sort of tinkering with a few segment ideas. So we're going to fire off with a new segment called Dollar Dollar Bets, y'all. But let's firstly go through the Ashes. So you had a stat there earlier, I think you mentioned in the show, with Steve Smith. Did you want to fire that one off again?
Yeah, it was Steve Smith with 215 runs. He's the second Aussie other than Bradman to score 200 in a test at the Lords. I think Bradman got 254.
Well, funnily enough, you mentioned that we've actually had a Facebook post come through to us here at Baller Talk. Hey, boys, don't forget 206 from Bill Brown, the Australian back in 1930. Having watched Wally Hammond pile on 240 for England, Brown produced an effort to match it in the second innings. With runs so readily on offer, the match ended in a draw. So thank you to our listener, Andrew Crichton, there, to just absolutely giving it to you.
Yeah,
Maybe get your facts right before you're coming on here.
I don't think he heard me right. He's the second. He's the second Aussie after Bradman. So that's where you got Bill. Yeah, you got Bill, and then you got Steve. Yeah,
I thought you said only though. Oh.
yeah, the second. He's only the second Aussie after Bradman. Yeah,
Listeners are always right, mate. You'll learn that soon.
thanks for that, Andrew.
But yeah, if you're coming out here and you're going to throw down some facts, get them right. I think it's what Andrew's just giving to you. But I think we'll fire back with the cricket now. So Australia declared 8 for 566 with Smith on 215, having scored the second most runs for an Australian at Lords. I think it's probably what you're getting at.
Yeah, that's the one.
Rogers with 173. There was not much else as far as the batting's concerned, which was a bit of an issue maybe.
Yeah.
It makes us look susceptible, but with Broad taking 4 wickets as well.
Yeah, four for 83, and I think the fact that you had Smith and Rogers who just dominated that, I think Australia sort of took the foot off the pedal a little bit. But I mean, you had the newcomer in Neville who come in and he just fell short of his half century, which would have been a great thing for him to get. But I mean, he fell short on 45. But what can you do?
And then the Australians came out and took England 4 for 85, which is a real credit to them. So Stokes still currently in, which is a bit of a danger man, 38, and you've got Cook on 21, again, still a bit of a danger. I think the fact that Australia did score runs, going back to Australia, the fact that Australia scored runs sort of still hides the fact that Clark still hasn't found a lot of runs.
No, still poor on form.
He's been very low on runs and he's already had 3 goes at the crease. So I'd like to see a little bit more from Clark. Obviously his leadership is good, but you then had Johnson take 2 wickets.
2 for 16. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more. I mean, at the end of a session for the first innings of England, to go 2 for 16 is just massive for him. So he's obviously firing.
Absolutely. And then Hazelwood and Stark also took 1 apiece. So Australia are in good stead going forward, and obviously looking to get today's 3. We'll be looking for more wickets and obviously potentially making sure that we
follow on.
Yeah, send them in. Would you? I guess we're sort of mediocre, or I guess amateur cricketers ourselves. But would you see that should England not make the follow on? Would you send them back in?
Depending on time during the day, I guess. I mean, Australia obviously win it. They don't want to draw.
No.
So the fact that depending on time, you might want to finish. Like if they can knock them off before lunch today, you might go in and have a knock for another 200 runs or whatnot, and just basically secure it.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go back in and have a bat regardless of whether they made the follow-on or not. I think batting last on that pitch looks like it's going to be harder than batting third on that pitch.
Yeah.
But I guess time will tell. Hopefully Australia really takes some really early wickets with the ball again and put the foot on the throat and really go for that. Go for the jugular.
Yeah.
Got to go eventually. Now moving onwards, we're a little bit short on time. We're going to go to dollar bets, y'all.
Dollar bets, y'all.
So what this is all about, we get a dollar bet each week, and we get to have a bet on anything that we so choose. We'll then tally it up, should it be a winner for each week, and we'll keep a running tally. That way, obviously, I can't get too far ahead of you in my glorious betting, because we obviously know I only back winners.
Yeah.
So your bet this week, Joshua?
Bets... should be a decent one in my eyes. I'm going the Swannies to beat the Hawks tonight. It's at $2.55. So obviously, I mean, once we hear yours, we'll see how far ahead I'll be getting.
Oh, I don't think it'll be by that much, but that's a might as well be throwing $1 away on the street, I think.
What do we got for you then?
We then move to my one for the dollar bet. We've got the Cowboys eyeing on Monday. I think they're a sure thing. I think they're as good as a sure thing as I'll ever say.
Oh, jeez.
I think
you heard it here first, everybody.
Jonathan, yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll come back to this next week. But Jonathan Thurston, he's a class above everyone else. His origin form, his recent form in clubland, he's too good for mine. And I think that will get the Cowboys over the line.
Oh, that's our dollar bill, your segment for this week.
That's it, and obviously we'll be running with that for the next few weeks, keeping a running tally as well, keeping our listeners up to date. And
I'll be hoping to take a massive lead straight up.
My advice would be don't follow us for the listeners, at least until we get a few runs on the board. I know it's only $1, but geez, I think you could easily go down to Macca's and get yourself a cheesy. So I guess that's us for the week. We'll leave it there, and we'll kick off same time next Saturday.
Same time.
109.
Hang on one sec. Sorry, yeah. Just on next week, I won't be here.
Oh no, you won't.
Yeah, so we've got to fill in next week.
We will have a few fill-ins, hopefully next week. So I'm still trying to find a few. I've already got another Joshua coming in. Hopefully he does a bit of a better job than yourself. Which shouldn't be too hard.
Sorry, I'll be listening on the slopes of Perisher, just listening to see if I've still got my job here in the week after.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Well, I guess that's us done for the week, and we thank you for your time and thank you for listening. And thank you for all the podcasters as well. We obviously will be laying the podcast a little bit later this afternoon or potentially tomorrow. So keep your ears out for that, and we'll see you same time next week.
Cheers to all the listeners.
Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Will it be the same when I see you again? Will it be over?
To BACR 100.9.